Okay, welcome everyone to our November meeting. Thanks for being here. Next slide, please. You know, I've never done this before, but safety information. Well, I think I'm not good at maps. I guess if there is an emergency, listen for directions.
Exit or in the back of the room?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Exits, there's an exit in the back of the room, and there's an exit to the right side of the room if you're facing me. And there is an area to meet where firefighters or first responders would meet us if we needed to evacuate. Now, hopefully that won't happen. Next slide, please. As you can see, this public meeting will be recorded. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Next slide. Zoom directions for our ASL interpreters. Today, our ASL interpreters are Denise and Tom. The Zoom host will spotlight the interpreter's videos. In general, to pin someone's video in Zoom, find the person's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses. Then click the pin option. This will keep the person's video visible on your screen. Zoom directions for cart captioning. Our cart captioner today is Denise. To access in the meeting controls toolbar, click Show Captions. A tip is to click and drag the captions to move them where you want them in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, in the meeting controls toolbar next to Show Captions, click the up arrow, then click Caption Settings, and next to font size, move the slider to adjust the caption size slider. If you need any help with Zoom or you have a technical question, please use the chat function. Our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. And I'm going to briefly go through today's agenda. We'll begin, as we did, with welcome and Zoom directions. I will give the RTAG update. Then we will have system-wide accessibility updates given by Rob Sampson, the SWA System-Wide Accessibility Senior Director. Then we will have a feedback session for system-wide accessibility. Then we will have the ride updates given by Chris Jurek, the Acting Chief of Paratransit Services, followed by the ride feedback session, and we'll end with some closing remarks. All right, I'm going to give some quick updates for everyone. First, I wanted to introduce myself for those of you who may not know me. My name is Kat. I am the RTAG facilitator. And for those who are new, we welcome you to the Riders Transportation Access Group, also known as RTAG. We're a community-based group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. Some history for some new members. I know there are some new people here today, and some of you were asking about the Fine Gold settlement. And we have some of the plaintiffs in the audience today, which is exciting. In 2002, a group of 11 riders and the Boston Center for Independent Living, represented by the Greater Boston Legal Services, filed a class action lawsuit against the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, called the Joanne Daniels Feingold et al. V. Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. The lawsuit led to the Daniels-Feingold Settlement Agreement in 2006, which improved accessibility and reinforced the Americans with Disabilities Act principles at the MBTA. In 2018, the MBTA reaffirmed its commitment to the settlement by entering an amended agreement clarifying remaining obligations and establishing a compliance evaluation plan. This agreement also led to the creation of the Riders Transportation Access Group, tasked with holding the MBTA accountable for maintaining compliance even after the agreement ends. I wanted to share that RTAG has a working group called Shared Spaces, which works to foster mutual understanding between groups including people with disabilities, bicyclists, pedestrians, transit riders, et cetera. And we recently hosted a site visit to Hyde Park Avenue in Jamaica Plain to assess the dangerous conditions of shared spaces, including bike lanes, sidewalks, and bus stops. The visit also examined interactions among community members, including individuals with disabilities, pedestrians, bicyclists, drivers, and transit riders. Our goal was to bring together city officials and community members to provide them with a firsthand understanding of these shared spaces, their limitations, and potential conflicts. This initiative helped promote more informed decision-making and facilitate relationship building among our communities, fostering a more authentic and accurate perspective of these shared spaces. Councillor Worrell, Councillor Pepin, and a representative from Councillor Weber's office joined us, all of whom represent areas surrounding Hyde Park Avenue. We are preparing a report that summarizes our group's key observations from the site visit to share with city decision makers, and the report will also include photos and recommendations. Some specific concerns highlighted during the site visit included a lack of accessible pedestrian signal systems and truncated domes at curb ramps and crosswalks. There were no measures in place to slow traffic, and many cars exceeded the speed limit. Additionally, several vehicles were parked too close to the crosswalk, limiting visibility for both pedestrians and drivers, which forced individuals crossing to step into the street to see approaching vehicles. There was also a lack of shelters and benches at bus stops, and people riding bicycles on the sidewalk because there were no designated bike lanes. If you are a local community member and would like to provide feedback or advocate for a more accessible and safer Hyde Park Avenue, please reach out to me, and my contact information will be shared during this meeting. And for those in person, you can come find me afterwards. I also wanted to share on October 28th, the Daniels Feingold Plaintiff Group, the Boston Center for Independent Living, and Monitor Judge King met with the system-wide accessibility team and General Manager Phil Eng to discuss the transition out of the settlement and remaining tasks. We had an open discussion about the progress made over the past 2 decades and what still needs to be monitored, including elevators, wayfinding, municipal coordination, community outreach, stop announcements, bus operations, and more. As responsibility begins to shift to the Riders Transportation Access Group and the community, we encourage members to share their thoughts on the Riders Transportation Access Group's future. We would like to know what can strengthen our group and what you would like to see from us moving forward. And my last update or call to action, I would say, is we're asking service animal users who have experienced Uber and Lyft refusals to testify at an upcoming public hearing tomorrow for House Bill 2066, which is an act to impose fines on transportation network drivers who discriminate against riders with disabilities who use service animals. It takes place from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is hybrid, and this bill would change statute language to allow penalizing transportation network drivers who discriminate against passengers with disabilities using service animals. The law aims to decrease the number of ongoing refusals of service to individuals accompanied by service dogs. You can attend in person at the State House. The hearing room is B as in boy 1, or virtually via Microsoft's Team. The registration to testify in person and virtually have both closed. However, same-day sign-up for in-person testimony is allowed if time permits. This happens on-site outside the hearing room. Pre-registered speakers will go first, and others will be called if time allows. And to submit written or pre-recorded testimony, that is allowed until Friday, November 21st at 5 p.m. And you will email that to labor.workforce.development@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Next slide. Oh, well, these are slides about what I said. We can skip those. I forgot I did that. I'm going to turn it over to Rob Sampson to give updates for system-wide accessibility.
Thanks, Kat. And thank you all for being here today. Next slide, please. I first want to begin by providing a small update on our elevator refreshment program, which is a topic we first presented several months ago. So through this program, what we'll be doing is updating most of the critical operating components of many of our key elevators in the system. These are components that you will not see, unfortunately, so once the elevators do reopen, they will look essentially the same, but we expect they will be more reliable after this work is complete. And currently, we are upgrading one elevator at a time. We do plan to ramp up to a point where we can upgrade up to 3 at one point in time. That is our hope. When these elevators are taken out of service, they're out of service for up to about 8 weeks. There is a lot of work that needs to be done. So it is a lengthy period of time, but we feel like it is worth the investment. What we're doing is we're doing the work in phases. So this way, we want to ensure that the nearest alternative elevator, either in the same station or at the next closest station, is available. So to lessen the inconvenience as much as possible. The elevators that we are currently working on and plan to work on include Chinatown, the Chinatown southbound elevator. This is the one that goes down to the Forest Hills platform. We happened to take this out of service yesterday. Next up was going to be the Park Street Green Line underpass elevators, followed by the State Street Orange Line elevator, as well as the downtown crossing elevators. These are the old ones that we're talking about, as well as the elevator located at Franklin Street. And then our hope is by sometime in the spring, late spring, early summer, we can then focus on Haymarket, upgrading all of those elevators, as well as the elevators at Davis and Broadway. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're excited with this project. We've already completed Braintree, Park Street 808, which is the unit that connects the Winter Street Concourse and the Red Line platform, as well as the Chinatown northbound elevator, which just reopened on Monday afternoon. When these elevators are out of service, the stations will be staffed by transit ambassadors. In some instances, we may assign additional ambassadors to provide assistance. And these ambassadors will be knowledgeable of the alternative paths of travel that will be available to riders. We'll also be posting service alerts, posting signage at the elevators to provide advance notice, and while they're out of service, to provide instructions on, again, how to find the closest alternative elevator. We'll also be making visual and audible announcements in stations in advance and during the first week of closure, letting riders know which unit will be out of service. And then our motor persons will also be making audible announcements when trains are approaching the impacted station to let riders know either to get off one station before or one station after. At that point, either riders will have to backtrack, or in some cases, like in the case of Broadway, eventually we'll have a shuttle bus in place. So, next slide. So as many of you probably already know, most of the MBTA's frontline employees receive comprehensive accessibility training. So this is a full day, 8-hour training program that these employees go through. That's part of it includes classroom training as well as a small hands-on training portion on a variety of topics. And the employees that go through this training include heavy and light rail motor persons, bus operators, transit ambassadors, contracted bus operators, and soon-to-be transit police officers. This program was designed by our department in conjunction with operations, as well as a few other departments. And it is designed to train employees on a number of core topics, including teaching employees how to respectfully communicate with older adults and people with disabilities, identify and report equipment defects on vehicles, as well as accessibility barriers in stations. Also teaches them how to properly fulfill reasonable requests for assistance in everyday situations, such as individuals who need help with orientation assistance, or deploying a ramp on a bus if you're an ambulatory rider, or boarding the rear door of a Green Line train, things of that nature. And also how to provide evacuation assistance in the event of an emergency. Next slide. So some of these trainings have not been updated in several years, I'll be honest, but thanks in large part to a new member of our staff, Nicole Tyrone, who is the manager of accessible mobility coordination and training development, and also due to some new exciting training initiatives by operations, we now have an opportunity to dramatically update these training programs. And now the ultimate goal through these updates is really to deliver a better training for operators and then further improve the service for all of our riders. So to accomplish that, first off, what we're going to do is redesign these trainings to make them more engaging, to make them more interactive, to try and encourage employees to participate in these trainings, all with the hope and expectation that this will boost knowledge retention, that when it's all said and done, that employees will leave these trainings feeling more confident in their abilities and better prepared to assist riders and provide a quality, accessible service. We'll also focus on refreshing a lot of the content, including the data that we have in these programs, focus on clarifying key policies and procedures, many of these that are subject to complaints. That includes issues related to bridge plate deployments, stop announcements on subway, again, rear door boarding on Green Line trains. Next slide. And as for some of the specific changes that we'll be making, first off, adding new instructional videos that are in some but not all of our training programs. And in these videos, it clearly demonstrates on how to perform certain tasks, such as deploying a bridge plate, providing sighted guide to riders, as well as making high quality verbal stop announcements on subway trains. We also plan to add some additional short videos of riders where they provide their perspective as a rider with a disability. And then also we'll be creating new facilitator and participant guides, which is a new feature to these training programs. And we expect that with these guides, they'll be used by both students and facilitators. It'll support them through the training as well as after the classes, and also establish a structure that for one, will ensure that the training is delivered consistently from class to class. And to help stimulate interaction during these classes, we're going to be adding some additional interactive scenarios that teach staff how to handle certain challenging situations, add more discussion questions, and also give participants an opportunity to practice some of those skills and techniques that they're learning over the course of the training class. And it's important to note that many of the changes that we will be making are based on feedback we've received, either directly from you all or through customer complaints. And also they'll be based on some of the findings that we gather through our internal access monitoring program. So as of right now, we are in the process of updating our programs for bus operators, heavy rail motor persons, as well as transit ambassadors. We expect that by the end of the year, those programs will be complete and ready to go. It should be around mid-December when actually our week-long training cycle for heavy rail motor persons is going to begin. And through that new training cycle, they will be receiving this full-day training. Whereas right now, our heavy rail motor persons it's only our new hires that are undergoing this training. So this is a pretty exciting development. And then as for next year, we're looking at upgrading our programs for light rail motor persons, contracted bus operators, as well as our call center staff. Next slide. All right, so just around the corner, we have Judge King's December meeting where he's going to update you all on the status of the settlement agreement. So for all of you that will be available on December 10th from 1 to 3, please join us. We'll be here in person in the boardroom. We will also have the option for those of you who have to join virtually through Zoom, that will be available. You'll just need to register in advance. For those of you who are behind the screen today, there is a QR code on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that you can click to register. Otherwise, you can visit the MBTA website and look for public meetings where all the information for the meeting will be available. So please join us if you can. And on the left side of the screen, I believe this is a picture from our June Judge King meeting. In the boardroom, Laura is off to the left-hand side with, I believe it's the general manager to her left, and then Judge King standing at the podium, and then Joanne and Kat seated at the table next to the judge. Next slide. And as we always do, if any of you have any feedback or concerns that you want to share with us outside of this meeting, there are a number of, or to stay engaged, there are a number of different resources that you can use. First and foremost, you have our customer support center that you can call at 617-222-3200 or 711 for TY or VRS for ASL users. We also have our Charlie Service Center located at 296 Washington Street in Boston that is available for anyone who wants to get assistance in person, especially with any fare-related, reduced fare-related issues. They are available. And then on the MBTA website, there are a number of different resources that we encourage you to check out, including the accessibility page, which you can access by going to mbta.com/accessibility. There's also our semi-annual accessibility initiatives report, which is a pretty lengthy report that provides updates on all the ongoing exciting accessibility initiatives that we have in place to further improve the system. We are in the process of updating that report, and we'll be issuing a revised version probably sometime in December. And then if you're not signed up already, the SWA newsletter, which is issued on a monthly basis. If you would like to sign up, you can go to mbta.com/SWA sign up.
What is SWA?
System-wide accessibility.
System-wide accessibility.
And then lastly, we have the MBTA customer support page on the MBTA website. So if you don't want to call the complaint, the customer support center, you can always go to this page and submit your feedback or file a complaint. And you can access that by going to mbta.com/customer-support. Next slide. And at that point, I'm going to turn it back to you, Kat.
Great. Thank you so much, Rob. So I'm going to go through instructions for folks who have questions or comments in person first, and then we'll go through instructions for folks who are virtual. For in-person attendees, please raise your hand or indicate that you would like to ask a question. Please wait for our assistant to hand you the microphone. And if you are communicating via ASL, please stand if you can. We may ask you to adjust your location so that the online interpreters can have a clear view of you. Next slide. And for those who are virtual and have questions or comments, in the Zoom controls, you can click reactions, then raise hand. Participants can also raise or lower their hand with keyboard shortcuts. You can click the Alt and Y key buttons if you're using Windows, and the Option and Y key buttons if you're using Mac OS. And if you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And then I'll have you just take the slides down so we can see folks. And I'll start with someone in person. Yeah, Dahan.
Dayon.
There's a Dayan, sorry, there's a microphone right in front of
Yes,
you.
I have a question regarding the VRS and orientation and mobility. First, Rob, you used an acronym before you mentioned ASL. Can you explain what that stands for, the VRS? And second of all, explain why you haven't been complying with orientation and mobility. Orientation and mobility is recognized by the blind community. I think it's very important because we're going to have a problem if we start having everyone do travel training. Then there's going to be a problem with orientation and mobility. There needs to be a mentoring partnership that deals with orientation and mobility, and the MBTA needs to be held accountable so that blind and visually impaired people can have orientation mobility mixed with the T. Thank you.
Well, first question, so VRS is video relay service. That's what I was referring to. Jennifer, did you want to take the second question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh. Thanks for bringing that point up. So we, as you may know, have our mobility center, which is contracted, and they are travel trainers. So the expectation is that if a person who's blind or has low vision goes to a travel trainer, that they've already gone through orientation and mobility from the Mass Commission for the Blind or from the Carroll Center. So we don't accept them into the travel training program unless they have those basic skills. Does that answer your question?
Sort of, but also Mass Association of the Blind should work, sort of, but it doesn't really explain how the orientation, look, my mic's not on. Yes, so that's a good question. However, it doesn't really answer the question, because how's the orientation mobility specialist going to know that? I think we need to work with the Mass Association of the Blind. Steve Jordan needs to come here, and everybody in orientation mobility needs to be held accountable, because I have my mother who believes in me being independent. And how can you be independent if you have orientation mobility experts who only come once in a while? We need to work with orientation mobility, and we need to work with the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We do work very closely with the Mass Commission for the Blind, with their orientation and mobility team, and the Carroll Center. If you'd like to connect me with someone else, I'd be happy to speak with them. I appreciate you bringing it forth.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Great. Is there another person who's here who has a question? Okay, we have Don, and then we'll have Reggie next.
Sorry, temporarily lost my note section. No, I found it. Good afternoon, members of the RTAG group, System-Wide Accessibility.
Don, can you put the microphone
at
closer to your mouth?
MBTA and the public. My name is Don Summerfield, and I want to talk about a few things, but will not go over the time limit afforded to me. There are many operators of buses that do not deploy the seatbelt correctly for me as recently as yesterday. And after deboarding the bus, I filed a complaint because I could not wait for that inspector to come to tell the operator or teach the operator how to deploy the seatbelt correctly. 3 times he put it on backwards. The first 2 times were backwards. I said, this will not work. I showed him how. He did not put it on correctly. The 3rd time, I then said, please call Central for inspector to come to put it on correctly. while I was waiting for the inspector, he tried to put it on a fourth time incorrectly, again backwards. I said, this will not work. I did not wait for the inspector. I just left and then filed a complaint with the MBTA. And I'll disagree with Mr. Sampson when I talked about the last RTAG meeting. I talked about ramps or buttons that do not work to alert the operator of green lines that you want to deboard. Well, and I found there was a incident, and you, Mr. Sampson, know about this. There was an incident on the B line where I boarded, I think it was Babcock and Com Ave, and told the operator, asked me, where will you get off? Park Street. Well, when we got to Park Street, there was no ramp. He started to shut the door. I yelled, I want this stopped. Well, he came out, deployed the ramp, and I said, well, did I press the button? Didn't you get alerted? No, it doesn't work. Well, why didn't the operator tell me two things at Babcock and Com Ave that the button did not work, and two, why did he even ask me that where I wanted to board if he didn't come out to deboard me? So I asked the MBTA to do a system-wide audit of these low-floor Green Line trains to see if these buttons work or not. And it's common sense. If he knew it didn't work, he should have told me at Babcock and Com Ave that the button didn't work. And on the third one, I will decline on complaining because I spoke to Rob Sanson beforehand. We will let this go through the chain of command.
Right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
John, if I could address your first complaint about the lap and shoulder belt and how some operators don't deploy it correctly. So we are currently working with our operations training school. Safira on our team spearheaded this effort to create a new job aid for operators that is a written as well as an illustrative set of instructions on how to properly deploy the lap and shoulder belt using an easier technique than what operators have traditionally been trained to follow. So that is pretty much ready to go. So that will be issued to operators soon. We are hoping that through this new job aid, as well as some other means of improving training, that we'll see a difference at some point, hopefully in the near future. So, and as for your concern on the green line, my guess is that the motor person did not know that bridge plate request button was not working, but I don't really know. Did you happen to file a complaint?
Oh, I filed a complaint concerning it. You have not seen it yet? That was done at least a month ago.
I don't check the complaints daily. There are others on our staff. Lisa Weber, she is on top of all the complaints we receive. But we'll make sure that vehicle maintenance, addresses or fixes that bridge plate request button. So.
And I also request the MBTA this complete audit of the low-floor trains on what buttons work and don't work, because I now am hesitant each time I get off. Well, will the operator know that because I've alerted that operator that I want to get off, or the operator close the doors on me? Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Don.
We'll do Reggie, and then we have a question online. Yeah.
So, Rob, I want to say that will you be available after you? I have a few ideas how we could do the bus training as far as pulling into the curve and not letting people off in the middle of the street or something. Maybe I can help you with the training if you want. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great, Reggie. I know you and I didn't get a chance to finish talking earlier, so yeah, I will be sticking around. We'll talk.
Thanks, Reg. I'm going to go to Harmony online, and then we'll do Jennifer in person.
Hi, I had a question. It's actually about the Flex program. I have
Harmony,
noticed,
just to interrupt you really quickly, we are
Yep.
going to go to the ride portion next, and then there will be a feedback session where I'll call on you to ask your ride question.
Okay,
Awesome, thank you.
yeah.
Jennifer?
Hello. Can you hear me? All right. Jennifer Smith Workman here. I am part of the RTAG subcommittee, and I am here to advocate for buses as well. In the training program, Rob, will there be training for the bus drivers to not let the Cadillac strollers take over the handicap seating? Because these carriages, these women with the carriages try to get on first so they can take the handicap seating for their carriages when I need a seat. I have to try to scooch all the way with my cane to the back for a seat. Is there any way that they're going to have the bus drivers keep an eye and monitor the people with strollers?
Every time I hear a Cadillac stroller, I immediately look for Mick Cepeda, and I see her over in the back laughing away. So, in a way, we will. So, in all of our buses at this point, we have side-facing, so seats are oriented where they face the aisle that flip up, and we install those to provide space for riders who use strollers. And so in our training, and we will emphasize this in a much greater way to encourage operators to direct riders to use those, and in the event that, say, someone with the stroller is occupying the securement area, try and utilize those side-facing seats. So, yeah, that is something that is on our list of things to approve upon. So, yes, you got it.
Thanks, Jennifer. Mick?
Thank you for that comment about the Cadillacs, because I've been complaining from day one about the Cadillacs. My question has to do with elevators, and specifically State Street. And I just wanted to know if there's ever going to be an elevator that goes all the way up on State Street so that we can come out across where City Hall is versus walking up the street or down the street to somewhere else.
Yes, there is. I wish Chris Hott was here to speak on this, but we do have a plan. I don't know where we are in it, I'll be honest, to install a new elevator unit that is on Washington Street, across from the old State House, that will lead from Washington Street down to, there's a corridor that connects to the Orange Line Forest Hills platform. So that is our plan. I will look into find out where things stand. I believe we are somewhere in design. So unless Laura, yep, there she is with her hand raised, will be able to help me out here.
And I have my last question is concerning the space and the amount of walking that you have to do if you're going to do to Forest Hills. Now, at one point, I had suggested putting benches along like every 3 miles of that long corridor, and I wanted to know if anybody has thought about that.
Before I pass to Laura, we did add one bench in that corridor because of your recommendation. It's only one, so that is still a pretty good distance between that new bench and the existing benches. So that is something we could take another look at. But if next time you're in the area, Mick, and, see if you could take a look and let us know what you think. There's also a call box that was installed right next to it. So. Yep.
Thanks, Mick. Laura, did you want to add to Rob's response? It looks like you're muted. It looks like Chris is also on the call.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Cap?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. Afternoon, everybody. Regarding State Street, Rob is correct in that we have a design pretty well advanced that would provide a construction directly to street level. This project, like a number of our other major station projects that involve the construction of new and redundant elevators, is on hold pending the securement of construction funding. Generally, these projects range anywhere from $30 to $75 million. And this is one of those that is currently not funded. So, each and every time there is a request for funding, we look at our highest priority accessibility needs and determine which ones should be placed at the top of the list. These are often, although not always, towards the top. We've been really focusing on addressing stations that are completely inaccessible. But please know this one is in the pipeline. It's just a matter of funding at this point. And this is also one of those projects that you can learn a little bit more about by checking out our initiatives report at any point. Thanks, Meg. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Laura. Chris, did you want to add to that?
I would just note that for riders who are involved in city planning and permitting, it's always helpful if you point out to the city these gaps, because often development nearby can help fund elevator projects. So, while we generally put all of the bills, there's no reason why, if we're getting a big skyscraper near a station, why that skyscraper should not be helping to fund access improvements to a given station. So, feel free to lean on your city councilors and representatives. The T does not have leverage over projects that are not directly on top of our town or station.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions from people in the room for system-wide accessibility? Tom?
Yeah, it's Tom Gilbert, nameplate of RTAG member, board member. I have a question as far as this is in regards to stop announcements on the bus and related to stop announcements on the buses. Broken speakers on the buses that keep coming across. I'd like to kind of piggyback on of what Don was saying earlier about getting some of these buses audited too for bad speakers, especially up at the front that don't work. And Reggie's been saying this for years too. It happens on the 17 series. It happens on the 14 series. It happened on a brand new one, 3129. That had a broken speaker at the front where you sit under the speaker for the disabled seating. And I was also wondering too of reviving the program. Now, and I know Reggie's mentioned this, that in the past where the transit in cases where the transit master it does not work, drivers were given books on the particular routes that they were on to call out quote unquote landmark and bus connection announcements, meaning that we're not asking a driver to call out every single one on the route and then get into an accident. We're just saying call out landmark announcements such as squares, hospitals, bus connections, obvious announcements that they need to be calling out, and then if the person has a particular street they're getting off at, the driver will have like a reference. Oh, it might be near that street that you're getting off at, or it might be, it gives the passenger and the driver an idea of where they are. Like for instance, on Friday I just called in where the transit master didn't work, and the driver, I don't mean to be like flippant, but the driver was clueless. He was like, I mean, he was nice. He was accommodating. He even offered me and Christine to drop us off where he lived because he knew us and everything. He was out of Bennett garage, and that's okay and everything. But he was totally he was totally clueless about what he was supposed to do as far as calling out the landmark announcements, especially going from Watertown Street in Lexington back to Alewife Station. And I don't get it because times where it's happened in the past where the transit master doesn't work, they haven't done that. They haven't called out the basic landmark and bus connection announcements. And there's got to be some kind of a comprehensive thing where they provided, like Reggie was saying, a book or something that's like laminated that on the particular routes they do, they highlight the connection and landmark announcements and have it in like. Have the pictures of the different stops where they stop at, so when they're in instruction training, the trainer can actually say, okay, if you're on the 87, this is what Union Square looks like on your paper, on your plaque thing. This is what Union Square looks like. This is what Davis Square looks like. This is what Central Street looks like for the different connections. So when they're trained and so when they're doing those particular routes and the transit master fails, they can just pull out in reference to that and says, oh, okay, here are my landmarks, and they have the pictures of what they look like, and when they come up, I'll just call them out and say, Central Street, change here for the 83, Russell Field or Central Square, and then when they move on to the next one, it'll be Porter Square Shopping Center. They can say that one, and then they can say Davis, or they can say Cameron Avenue, the Senior Center. So we're just asking them to call out major announcements and connections. If they could do that because they used to do that. They used to do that in the old days. Jeff Fourier, one of the drivers I used to know, always did it, and Emilio always did it, and drivers that I knew in the past faithfully did it. Bob Busher, I mean, I can go on and on with great drivers I've known in the past that always would do it, and it's. I don't think it's asking too much for them to all do that. So that's what I.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
So two things. So Tom, regarding your concerns about speakers not functioning on buses, so we received confirmation from the head of bus maintenance that they are going to do a full audit of all buses, checking for to make sure that the speakers are working on all of those buses. So secondly, this is a long-standing rule. Nothing has changed. Bus operators, if the transit master is not working, they are supposed to announce specific stops. Those stops are listed in a route guide that is distributed to operators, and it's their obligation to continue to announce those stops. It is our hope that through a new tablet that is going to be installed on buses, that that operators could use that, or rather, we can use that tablet to identify which stops must be announced if the transit master is not functioning properly. So this way, it no longer requires operators to memorize those stops or requires them to carry that route guide. So that is just something that we're looking into, where we think should help address that problem to a certain degree. So, but we're a bit of a ways from that. So,
Great.
I'm just saying in general, it just hasn't happened in the past, and it didn't happen this time in New York Friday. So the driver was accommodating, but he just didn't get it as far as what he's supposed to do.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
and then Jennifer, you asked if, that is also one of the topics, because this is something that we've seen in a slight increase lately is issues with announcements on buses. So yes, we'll be working to make sure that operators leave that training, hopefully with a better understanding that this is what they need to be doing. So, and also just being observant for equipment malfunctions and reporting them to the OCC, which is the Operations Control Center, which is they're also required to do in that situation. So, yeah.
Okay, it looks like we have a question in the back, and then we have a couple online, and then we'll move to the ride.
Yeah, Mixapater again, main plaintiff. I just wanted to ask about the scrolling signs that are on the buses and the trains and everything where they just scroll so fast. I thought I was the only one that had that issue, but it triggers seizures. And I just wanted to know, is there any way that you can slow it down so that it doesn't scroll, so that your eyes don't get out of focus that much, or there's something that can be done so that even if you don't have a seizure, you can read it before it finishes scrolling down the thing. And I just want to know about, if there's something that can be done about those scrolling signs. Thank you.
Thanks, Mick.
That's something that we can look into, Mick. I can't answer that question. I know we can do that on our new red and orange line trains. We did do that. Actually, no, I'll scratch that. We actually sped up the speed because it was so slow we weren't completing the announcements. But on the bus side, we'll take a look at that. And if it's not, if it's not scrolling, maybe they can paginate if it's, too much information that can fit on the screen at one time. We'll take a look.
Thanks, Mick. I'm going to go to the virtual participants. Harmony, is your hand still raised with the ride question, or do you have a question for fixed route? Oh, it looks like you lowered your hand. I'll go to Stephen.
Yes, good afternoon. Hello, Kat. Thank you for letting me get a question in. So I had a question. I had to unfortunately step away from the meeting, but regarding the elevators, the new ones, are they going to have proper Braille signage on the panel, and will they be announcing which floors they're going to? And also, a piggyback also about not just the buses, but what about the commuter trains and the subways? About if we're hearing no announcements given, kind of like what Tom was saying about with the bus announcements. That was my question.
So for Braille signs at outside of elevators and onboard elevators, so this means the floor buttons inside the cabs.
Correct, yep.
So all of our elevators should have those Braille decals. So if you happen to be aware of any in particular that don't, we would love to know, but that is something that our elevator contractor is supposed to be checking for when they inspect elevators. That is something that our personnel check for, but it's good to know if you're aware of any. The way they're.
I'm not at the moment, but I just figured I'm just gonna throw it out there anyway. So thank you for taking my question.
Yep. And some of our newer elevators, I believe, I'm pretty sure that they do announce the floor. There's an audible indicator. But for our older units, there is at least some sort of chime or sound to signal when it has reached the particular floor. So there's some audible indicator, but it's just the type varies by the age of the elevator.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Again, thank you for that detailed explanation.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Kat.
They announced the floor indicator.
All right. I am going to have the slides pulled back up, please.
God bless Jaws. I love that song.
And we can go to the next slide. And now I'm going to hand it over to Chris Jurek to give ride updates.
Thanks, Kat. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming here. I'm Chris Jurek. I'm the acting chief of paratransit services. You go to the next slide. So first and foremost, yes, Michelle Styler, our former chief of paratransit services, has left the MBTA for another opportunity. our team is very sad to be losing her, and we certainly thank her for her leadership over the last 4 years, and all she's done to improve the ride and our ride performance over what were some tough years, especially coming out of the pandemic. So we thank her for that. The next item, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, is our baggage assistance policy. We have clearly heard a lot of comments and feedback from a number of our customers, including many in this room, and we've also heard from our providers and our drivers as well on this, particularly the changes that were recently made to the policy around drivers assisting customers with baggage. I can say, too, that Ryan Caholen, the MBTA's chief operating officer himself, recently met with stakeholders to get customer input directly himself. With all of that, I can share that we are officially reviewing and reconsidering the policy around baggage assistance. I do want to be clear, because I know there has been some confusion about this, and I know we've seen some concerns and feedbacks about drivers in this regard. But one thing that has never changed is the requirement for drivers to provide door-to-door assistance for customers to help you to the door and to the vehicle. The only thing that did change was obviously whether or not they would carry baggage for you, and that's the part that is currently under review. You know, that change was made with the goal of improving both customer and driver safety. But I think we recognize that we may have sort of overcorrected in that aim here. And we want to ensure that we are finding the right balance here between safety and customer service. So we fully understand the importance and the impact this change has had on customers, and pledge to review and resolve this quickly here. And then the other sort of update I want to share here too are a couple of opportunities we have coming up in December. Additional opportunities to gather customer feedback. The first is we will be conducting our biannual customer satisfaction survey. So every other year, we work with teams here internally at the T to put this customer satisfaction survey out. So that will be happening, and so we advise customers to be on the lookout for opportunities to participate in that. Furthermore, we will be holding next month a customer forum to gather feedback on the spare software system. We are now just shy of 3 months into our implementation and use of the software system. And so we'll be looking to gather feedback, experience from customers. Our team is currently working to finalize the logistics on this, including a date and time, but that will be occurring next month. So we just ask that everyone who's interested be on the lookout for more information for that as well. With that, we can go to the next slide. And you can go to the next slide too. One of the other things we've heard in recent feedback from customers is questions and concerns about the software system and how generally sort of paratransit routing scheduling works. So we wanted to take an opportunity here to share a little bit of information and context for everyone, and to help sort of understand how those decisions are being made. So a little context I'll set here, which is some background on this topic, which is, clearly paratransit is designed to mirror fixed route public transit wherever possible, including fares, the general service area hours, the fact that we are all, meaning public transit modes, a shared service, a shared ride service. But the other piece of here that's sort of important around comparability is that we use we call it the fixed route travel time equivalent to determine how long a customer can be on board a ride vehicle. Technically, our our requirement we have is that a customer's trip should not exceed the fixed route equivalent travel time plus 20 minutes. Next slide, please. And with that, I actually will turn this over to Elizabeth Wiesner, our Director of Strategic Initiatives and Engagement.
Thank you. Great. So we just wanted to give a little bit of kind of behind the scenes of how generally paratransit management software works to do scheduling, and more specifically how we have configured Spare to do this for us. And so on the slide, I have an image that I screenshotted from Spare itself. It is a map of the Boston area with probably a couple hundred of vehicles kind of overlaid with real-time locations. And this is here just to kind of demonstrate or kind of show the point that I wanted to make, which is that this software is creating routes to deliver thousands of trips a day, between 2,000 and 5,000 for us. And the point is that we are getting everyone where they need to go as efficiently as possible and as on time as possible. And so when our software is scheduling trips, it is not doing so in a vacuum. It is doing so considering all of the thousands of trips and the way to deliver all of those in the best way it can. Next slide, please. And so a little bit more detail on what really goes into that. So there's an algorithm that determines the trips and the schedules. Some of the criteria that shape that algorithm are the vehicle origin, the time on board the vehicle, like Chris said, the vehicle capacity, the maximum detour time, among some other kind of configurations. What is not a criteria is geographical directness or kind of how it would look on a map. Really, the priority here is that we get people to their location in a reasonable amount of time as compared to the fixed route, not necessarily that it is kind of a straight line shot on a map. And so, for example, I have two maps up on screen, both showing a trip from Malden to Boston. One is just kind of like the Google Maps straight line version of that from point A to point B, which is what you would do if you were driving directly in your own car. But the other map shows kind of what that would look like in a paratransit trip, which is not quite as straight. It is detouring into Revere to the east, and then back west and south into Boston to the final location, which on the map, we can see that is not as direct as driving, but it does achieve the goal of getting someone there on time. And so if you go to the next slide, we have a couple of real live examples of trips that people have taken on our service recently that we thought kind of helped to make this point and demonstrate, while you're on the vehicle, we can understand it might feel like, where am I going? Why are we going this direction? This doesn't make sense. But when you kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, at least in these two cases, the trip did make sense. It did achieve these goals. So the first trip comparison is a shorter length trip. It's something that starts in Boston and ends in Boston, starting from MGH area and going to kind of the South End neighborhood. So the first map is what it would look like driving. It's as straightforward as you can be on the streets of Boston, which is not very, but would get you there within 13 minutes. To do that same trip on the fixed route would be someone taking MGH stop, or getting on the red line from the MGH stop, traveling east to Park Street, before then getting on the green line at Park Street and traveling back west to Back Bay, South End area. That trip would take 29 minutes. Which would make our goal that we would need to deliver that trip in 29 plus 20 minutes, so 49 minutes. The real trip that did happen started at MGH. There was a detour into the North End, so similarly we traveled east to do two different stops, and then back west to the South End, and completed that trip within 39 minutes, which was within the goal. But again, looking at the map and seeing that first someone traveled east just to go west, would I, on the vehicle potentially feel like why this doesn't make sense? But knowing that we have to get many people around the central Boston area and that it fit within the time, that did fit our criteria of time aboard vehicle. So the next example is one that is a longer trip in the greater Boston area. If we go to the next slide. And so this is a similar kind of review of the example of driving versus fixed route versus paratransit, but kind of different points on the map here. The first map is driving between Peabody and West Roxbury, which would take 45 minutes in the car directly. The second map shows what the fixed route trip would look like here. And important to note that paratransit is not ever compared to regional rail, so it excludes the commuter rail. So the fixed route equivalent here would be the bus rides between Peabody and Boston, the Orange Line within Boston and then out, and then another bus at the end of that Orange Line trip. So that duration of travel would be 2 hours and 27 minutes according to the MBTA's trip planner, which would make our goal for that trip 2 hours and 47 minutes. The actual equivalent that we did recently of this same trip was 2 hours and 15 minutes, so well within the goal and actually faster than the fixed route equivalent at all. We obviously started in Peabody, did 2 stops on the way, kind of traveling a little bit more west before heading south to West Roxbury. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you. It's important to note that we are, the RIDE, constantly monitoring for excessive onboard times, both in real time and after the fact and through our auditing and quality assurance. So, these are 2 layers on top of the software system itself and sort of the automated processes that has in place to ensure we don't violate that. So dispatchers are the eyes and ears of our system in terms of watching in real time as trips are delivered to make sure we're not violating any of the onboard requirements. There are tools in the Spare platform for them that are really helpful in this regard, and that we didn't, that have I think been significantly improved in the last over where we. Our previous software system. And they have a watch list that basically will elevate exceptions and potential problems for them to review and address. And they are able to, from that, identify where they can reach out to drivers to see if they have the ability to do anything in the moment. Clearly, we, a lot of the problems we have are hard to adjust in real time. So if you are on a ride vehicle on the highway and there's a accident and a significant traffic jam or backup, there's not a lot that we can do in terms of helping that trip in that instance, which is why we try to be as proactive as possible and look out for opportunities where we can make changes in advance. So that's sort of what dispatchers are doing in real time on the day of service. And then we also do what we call sort of our maximum onboard time audit, which is we do sort of a QA, quality assurance, quality control auditing of trips each month to investigate and look into any trips that may have exceeded the fixed route equivalent time. And if we have those, we really try to do a root cause analysis to understand what was driving what happened there. And, there can be a variety of things that impact that. If we go to the next slide, please. We find that the vast majority of our trips are within this onboard travel time limit. Of those that do exceed, we see as I mentioned, traffic is probably the number one cause, which leads to those longer times. I will say early on, after the spare transition, we did have a couple of cases of trips that were, I would call it, significantly violated this standard, and part of that was was sort of just the nature of the transition. We had drivers who were a little unsure of what to do, and that may have caused some problems that led to some of these. So, from that, we've been making sure to monitor very closely, and like I said, we've seen the vast majority of trips are meeting this requirement. Well, we also look at generally our sort of the average onboard time, and we found that currently comparing sort of post-launch with spare to pre-launch, that the average time on board a vehicle has increased by approximately 3 minutes. So on average is not a huge increase when I think you're talking about a roughly 30-ish minute sort of average trip length in terms of time. And I think it's worth pointing out that in the same time, we've seen a real increase in our overall efficiency, in meaning the number of trips we're able to move with the number of drivers and vehicles we have on the road. And we've also seen an improvement in our on-time performance overall. Next slide, please. And then lastly, I think important to point here that we're happy with the results we're seeing here, but we are always striving to improve everything we do. And so, we are working on a number of fronts, even on this issue of onboard time, to make sure we're doing things like adding in trip length as an extra factor into that criteria for the dispatchers to be able to see and access at their fingertips, so they can have more information. We're working with Spare to provide enhancements to how we shift some trips to our Uber or Lyft partners for those who are opted into Flex. We think there's some improvements we can make there that will help prevent some of these, either prolonged onboard times or late trips by proactively moving other trips to Uber and Lyft. And then we continue to analyze and dig into causes of long trips and understanding the frequency and how often we are seeing these long trips happen. And then on an ongoing basis, continuing to fine-tune the software and its configurations, just to make sure we are dialing in specifically where we want to be with the performance. And with that, next slide. And next one, do you want to take this, Kat?
Sure. Next slide. Oh, do you want to take this one?
I think this is mine, sorry. Yes, certainly if you have general feedback for us, we're happy to listen here and to your comments. If you want us to be able to investigate and respond to these, you hear us say it every meeting, and we'll say it here too again. We do really need you to be able to put in those complaints through customer service, either through calling the call center at the 617-222-3200 or going to the customer support website. But that submitting those complaints really ensures we have the information we need to be able to both investigate, look into, understand what happened, and get back to you with a response. And with that, I will say, if anyone here in the room at least has a complaint they want to share but has not actually submitted a complaint, we do have some team members in the back of the room who are willing to help you submit that complaint right here this afternoon as well. With that, I think I will throw it back to you now, Kat.
Great. Next slide. Okay, again, for folks who are in person, please raise your hand or indicate that you would like to ask a question. Please wait for our assistant to hand you the microphone. And if you're communicating via ASL, please stand if you can. We may ask you to adjust your location so that the online interpreters can have a clear view of you. Next slide. And for folks who are virtual, In the Zoom controls, click reactions, then click raise hand. Participants can also raise or lower their hand with keyboard shortcuts, Alt and Y keys if you're using Windows, and the Option and Y keys if you're using Mac OS. And participants calling in by the phone can click *9 to raise their hand and *6 to unmute. And we could take down the slides, and I'm going to alternate between participants who are in person and participants who are on Zoom. And we'll start with Paul in the back.
Thank you, Kat. My name's Paul Stichko, a member of the RTAG Ride Subcommittee. Chris, I have a question and a comment about the new package policy. I'm concerned about ride customers who use the folding grocery carts. I understand that the current policy is that when the person boards with the cart, they have to unload the cart and put the contents at their feet and then secure the cart. To me, that seems discriminatory because if I use a folding grocery cart on the fixed route system, I can take it on with me and no one says a thing. I can just secure it beside me and there's no issue. So is there going to be any change to that policy?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, this one is not changing. And so part of the reason is, for us, I appreciate, that it's different for fixed route. But for us, there is a real safety concern in having larger size carts full of objects that we cannot secure. A lot of these carts just don't have the structural stability to actually be secured while, in the tie downs or anything like that while they are full. And so, the risk of having that loose in a vehicle, in a van that, hard brakes or gets into an accident, for us is really the major safety concern. If you have a smaller size cart that will fit in your personal space, you can hold that in your personal space without having to unload it.
Thanks, Paul. We'll go to Leah online.
A quick follow-up on that. Does it have to be in a personal space, or could it be in the seat beside the person, in front of that seat?
Yeah, it has to be in your personal space because, especially with Spare, which is doing a good job of being more efficient. We are making a lot more use of shared trips, and so we can't guarantee that seat is not going to be needed. Hold on.
Yeah,
we can't guarantee that seat's not going to be needed for another customer, and we can't be in a position where someone goes to get on a vehicle and there's no seat for them or there's no securement space. So,
well, how about in a sedan or one of the transit vehicles? Could the full cart be placed in the back storage area?
No, we have the same issue there. I think, unless you're talking about the trunk of
the trunk
yeah.
or the transit has space way in the back. You might call that the trunk, but a cart could fit in there full.
Yeah, we can, the car can't be put in there full, clearly, because we can't ask the drivers to be, lifting that much weight. But however, the cart and the items can be put in there.
I have a question.
Yep, we're going to go to someone online, and then we'll come back to the in-person room. Leah? Are you able to unmute?
Okay, yep, right here. Thank you. I must say, I loved taking the T-Ride before. Yep, the Spear. Now, I know it's a shared ride and all that. That's fine. But when they put like 4 people and cram us in it, and then make us late, I wasn't ever late, maybe twice before. But see you later, thank you. But with the new Spare thing, I'm late all the time now. And I don't understand that. There's more people in there crammed in there, and I'm late being taken to my appointment, and that causes me to have to reschedule while I'm there because the doctor's office won't even see me. So
Thanks, Leah.
does AI pick these things out? or is dispatch doing the configuration for the trips?
A lot of the scheduling, it does happen automatically, but as I shared overall, we're actually seeing better on-time performance than we had before. So,
I find that hard to believe because everyone I talk to is saying the same thing, but okay.
Oh, thank you.
Leah, if there are specific trips you want the ride team to look at also, you can absolutely send in a complaint and they can look at specific trips.
I do send in complaints when I feel the need to do so.
Okay.
But it's
great.
over and done with now, so I'm not going to even try to do that. But thank you for offering it.
Thanks, Leah. We'll go in person. Oh, yeah, we could do, is it Dayon?
Yes.
A microphone's coming your way.
Thank you. You know, is the mic on? Well, I've been taking the ride since 2012. I love the ride. I think you're great until an orientation mobility specialist can clear me. You're the greatest thing. Actually, you're great, Chris. But I do have a question about that survey, and I also have a question about a route. I have not received anything on the survey, and I would like to be informed on the form that you were talking about for the spare software. Please put me on that list. One time I go to Somerville Center for Adult Learning Experiences at 167 Holland Street. I go there every Tuesday and Thursday. I arrive at, my arrival time is supposed to be there before 11:30. But when I get there, I'm doing my math class, and then the next thing you know, the ride texts me before I even get a chance to answer one math problem, and they're telling me your ride's coming in 60 minutes. Could you please, for the sake of people who are trying to become their own guardians, and for people who are taking the GED and high school equivalency, could you please try to give a little extension time, please? Because we can't be mind readers, and that's the only problem I've had with the ride since 2012. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback, and as long as, if you have I'd encourage you and anyone, certainly, if you don't have an email on file, with your profile, and you have one, please make sure to get it out of your profile, because that is, one of the benefits.
Email, danpavich@gmail.com.
Perfect. Then if it's on file, you should be getting the notifications.
I'm not getting it.
We haven't sent them out yet about the survey, so.
2 years ago, you didn't give me to me. I remember 2 years ago, when you do the surveys, I didn't get one.
Well, you should definitely get one this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Dayon. I'm going to go online. Naomi, do you still have time to share, or do you want me to read out your questions? It looks like your hand is still raised.
I have to leave in like 1 minute, so if you wouldn't mind sharing, that'd be great.
Okay, will do. Naomi's questions include the protected bike lanes on, for example, Tremont Street, prevent the ride vehicles from pulling close enough to the curb to get the lift down. As a result, vans have to pull over at a crosswalk where there is a curb cut, but may be a significant distance from the destination. And the second question is, as a wheelchair user, I find the ride flex exclusionary. I have never once found an available flex vehicle. Are you working with flex providers to ensure that wheelchair users receive the equivalent service?
Yeah, I can say we continuously work with them to ensure comparability, availability for wheelchair accessible vehicles for flex users. I think we understand it is not exactly the same, unfortunately, but we do work with them to try to get it as close as possible.
And any response to the first question about bike lanes?
No. But again, we will, look into the complaint once we have some information.
Okay, great. Jennifer.
Hi, Chris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Jennifer Smith Workman. Chris, I'm going to piggyback on the flex. I've been informed by several people in my circle that they are being transferred to the Flex, Lyft, or Uber, but they're not being informed of when their ride has arrived and or when their ride is about to leave. Is there any way we can have the Lyft, Uber people call? If you're being transferred to the Uber or Lyft, call to let them know that their ride is downstairs, because they don't wait, and we don't know when they are there.
I'm sorry, are you talking about trips that actually were booked through track and then shifted?
Exactly. Books, trips that were booked from the ride, from track, that would have been transferred to the Flex program, which is wonderful. Yeah. Great, great. But we don't know when the drivers have arrived.
Okay. We
need a call.
Yeah, so one of the benefits with Spare is for shifted trips are supposed to be getting all of the exact same notifications you would get at the same time as if you were on a dedicated vehicle.
And that's great with Spare, Chris, but there are people that don't have Spare. They're just not tech savvy. These
but
are
as long
the
as they're
people that
opted,
rely on just phone calls.
if they're opted into phone call notifications, they should be getting a phone call regardless of who the provider is. So I'd be interested in getting a little more information here if you can provide it after the fact.
Sure
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chris, if you can provide technology for people who are blind using JAWS, how to use those things, I would love to use the program. Sorry, I wasn't raising my hand, I'm sorry. Regarding screen readers and the ride, everyone keeps talking about the Ride Flex program, but nobody is willing to work with visually impaired people like myself. I want to learn how to use the Ride Flex, but I also think I also want to learn how to use the trains and buses, but that's off topic. But I would like to learn how to use the Ride Flex. If people can work with me, and we could try to work on that. And that should be something that the MBTA's, the ride, should do on their eligibility, automatically enroll you in Ride Flex.
We can automatically enroll people into Ride Flex for some regulatory reasons, so customers do have to opt in. However, the Mobility Center will absolutely help you learning how to use the Uber and Lyft apps if you are in Ride Flex, and they are also offering training on the Spare app and website for anyone who needs that as well.
Sign me up, please. Both of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dayon. And we'll go online to Alan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is more of a long-term question. I don't know if there is a real answer right now for this, but because obviously, as many of us know, the ride, we have a lot of the non-Lyft vehicles. There was one on the first slide that we saw. My concern is that because a lot of these vehicles, they're from 2018, 2019, 2021, they'll reach the end of their service life in a couple of years. My problem is that because they don't make this kind of vehicle anymore, because my concern is that there's a significant risk that because, again, there's just not, that the vehicle is not in production anymore. So I just want to make sure that what's going to happen, that we actually pursue, procuring replacements for those rather than just essentially farming those out to other vehicles that the T doesn't own, if you know what I mean. Even though they're technically compliant, but the problem with these like USERV and these other adaptive TNCs, the problem is that they're just not very consistent. I don't think that it's not an appropriate replacement for the right, if you know what I mean. It's not an appropriate replacement.
Hi, Alan. I really appreciate you bringing this up, because this is something we are struggling with too. And you're, I think, particularly talking about our current sedans, which are Ford Flexes and Transit Connect vans, both of which are no longer made. And I think overall the vehicle market clearly has moved away from sedans, and so we will be reprocuring our sedans and replacing our fleet as part of our ongoing fleet replacement project. And so you're right, it is going to be a task for us to identify vehicles that are going to
go right, because you could always go to like a larger Transit or something, but it's more expensive. It is more expensive. You know what I mean? It's always an option, I guess. But
no, but I mean, certainly we do expect that, because all of the vehicles we have now were bought before the pandemic and before our ridership was reduced because of that, and we're still not up to the ridership levels we were at before. We expect that we will actually be probably shrinking our fleet a little bit because of that, but we do not intend to not operate sedans or similar non-lift
Good,
up.
good. I just want, that's been just an issue that's bugging me the last couple of days. I just want to make sure, because I think that would be, because again, I just don't want, because it's just too inconsistent. I personally, I've never been a fan of privatization of this kind, but.
Thank you.
Great, yes, go ahead. Is it Kathy?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Audrey Armand. I'm a frequent rider on the ride. I take the ride at least 10 rides a week. My major complaint is they constantly keep assigning me on vehicles with someone else with either a scooter or a wheelchair, and it doesn't work. They both do not fit. So then I gotta wait for the driver to call in, then gotta wait for safety to come out, find out that it doesn't work. Then I gotta wait for them to send me another vehicle. This has happened at least 4 times. It takes a lot of time and a lot of my energy. So I took pictures, I made my complaint, I found out how to send it by email and send the pictures later. They sent me back a response and said my email was too long.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was too long about it, but I'm tired of being treated that way.
Exactly. Here.
And I will not ride like that. If they try to do it again, I'm going to refuse to go. I don't know what they're going to do.
Thank you.
No one has to be treated like that.
Exactly. Nobody. You're right.
Agreed. And the drivers, the vehicles are supposed to have space for 2-wheel mobility devices to be secured.
Well,
So
all mobile vehicles are not the same size. They don't even measure them. They don't even know what size they are.
as they do get measured when you go into the mobility center, and this is one of the reasons.
They've never measured mine.
Oh, well, they are supposed to, and if maybe, I'm not sure when your last eligibility appointment was, but they will measure it the next time you're there. And part of this is the reason because we need to, you're right, there are, that we have limited space on the vehicles, and so we need to make sure that devices,
I'm not going to be crammed in like a sardine. No.
That's exactly right. You're not going to be crammed in. You tell them, girl.
And as for the email, I am not sure. I mean, clearly, your email shouldn't be too long, so I don't know if this is an automated response, but I think we can have someone check with you on that.
All right.
Oh.
And when I came to the last meeting, I believe it was in September, I left all my information. Someone was supposed to get back to me. I'm still waiting for that call.
And you have a problem with visually impaired people?
Hold on, Dan.
Hold on. I think Megan wanted to just share some information on the email.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan. I work at the RIDE, the Deputy Director of Communications. I did just double check. If you submit something through the customer support page, there is a 3,000 character limit. So that might have been the error message that you got back. If you do need to include more information than what can fit, just make a note in there. If there's not enough information to investigate, we will reach back out and get anything else that we need.
All right. I am going to go online to Susie.
Hey, Kat. My comment is about some things that my consumers have been struggling with, and they've been struggling with arriving too early, they're given that 30-minute window or whatever, and for pickup, but then their arrival time is like an hour or two early, and some of the times they've been to doctor's offices before they opened, and I mean I meet with I meet with these people, and they're concerned with their you know their temperature, especially in the cold weather, but also in the heat. But also they're concerned with you know not just sitting there doing nothing for that time. And then there's also the other concern is with taking everything out of a rolling cart and putting it by your feet. If someone's a consumer, or if someone's a ride customer with a service animal, that 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 service animal will be positioned for their safety at the feet of their handler. So I'm just concerned about. I've been concerned about the packaging situation for the past couple months. So that's my comments today.
Thanks, Susie. Any other questions in person? Tom.
Hi, Act Member. This is Tom Gilbert here. Are you still dealing with Shepherd's Brothers, the ride contractor for the new vans, or has that changed? 'Cause I know
That
Shepherd's
hasn't
Brothers.
changed.
What's that?
That hasn't changed, no.
So I'm just wondering, how much are they in communication in general, as far as like, because it sounds like there's like specifications that are not specification issues that are going on here, as far as what they've been saying. How many, like, have they changed the specs over the years or not? Or I'm just wondering, like, how on the same page Shepherd's Brothers is, like, when you're purchasing the vans, and how much communication there is with. I believe they're in upstate New York, I think. As
Yeah,
far
I think
as
that's
like
right.
when communicating with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to, in a general sense, because it seems like being with Shepherd Brothers, being with them as long as you've had them, I'm just surprised there's not more communication. Because it seems like, again, with the ride, with not having enough space, with the wheelchair issues and stuff, and
Yeah, I'm not the vehicle expert, certainly, but my understanding is that there has been changes to basically the form factor itself, which is why I think we've have a little bit of a problem now that we didn't used to, in terms of how much space there is for the securement. So, but otherwise, yeah, I mean, they've certainly been a good partner for many years with us. And
so do you think Shepherd's Brothers kind of fixed something that wasn't broken? Do you think?
I don't think it was as much as them as it was perhaps from Ford itself. So, and they were just dealing with the availability of the chassis. So, yeah.
Thanks, Tom. We'll go online to Harmony. Are you able to unmute?
Hi, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yes.
Okay. When I called, I had one issue with Flex, but now I realize there are two. As early as last year, I was able to book a wheelchair vehicle for Flex same day ahead of time. Like if I needed to book something for, say, 4:00, I was able to book it at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it would show up at 4:00. Now you can book any type of vehicle for Flex except for a wheelchair vehicle on either Uber or Lyft, and I don't know why that is. And you could do that as early as last summer. I don't know when they stopped doing it, but you can't do it anymore. And I don't know why. And it's only the wheelchair vehicles that you can no longer do it on.
I'm not aware of that either, but thanks for bringing that up, and we'll take a look.
The other thing that I just realized, and because people were talking about it, I have been a ride user for a very long time. I just rejoined about a year ago because I moved much closer to Boston and I hadn't been using it for a while. When you join the ride, nobody tells you about the Flex program at all at the Mobility Center. Nobody makes you aware of it. You have to know about it and you have to go online and find it. I can tell you right now, if you look around the room and talk about it, there are probably a lot of people in the room who don't know about it and who don't know how to get on it. It's not well publicized, and there are a lot of people who don't know it exists, and a lot of people who are saying that the ride isn't getting there on time don't know that they have options. And that's a big deal, because the Flex program is the same price as the ride program, and they would get there on time, and they wouldn't have to be squashed like sardines.
Thanks, Harmony. We are currently doing a review of our Mobility Center process so we can review kind of when and where it gets brought up. It is supposed to be brought up. It's also in the waiting room, kind of like printed information and the videos that play on loop in the lobby.
I rejoined last year and I was not told.
And in the ride guide that we send out to everyone as soon as they become eligible. But we will, we can take a look at how often and where we share that information.
Okay, I had to look deep and I had to look it up. So, and I'm pretty computer savvy and I had to figure it out. I knew it existed, and that's why I found it. But if I didn't, I wouldn't know to look, and most elderly people probably wouldn't know to look. And I have told several people, I've told elderly people in waiting rooms in doctors' offices, hey, do you know about this? And they've gone, what? What are you talking about? And been thrilled because they used the ride and they didn't know because nobody tells them.
Thanks, Harmony. We will definitely look into that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harmony.
Yep.
Any other questions in the room? Carolyn?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Villers. I'm with Mass Senior Action Council, and thank you for the information you shared today, and certainly we've had additional conversations with folks at the MBTA. I think I just want to kind of say that the information you share is not consistent with what we're hearing in the community. Longtime ride users who are well accustomed to the, non-direct routes and at times lengthy rides are saying that their experience has been very different in the last 2 months with Spare. So, and again, it's hard, without looking at individual trips to understand that. I know that there are some individual trips that I have seen that, are double, what the fixed route equivalent would have been. And so, again, I think it will be good to have more feedback. It sounds like there's some lined up, but look forward to kind of working on providing even more feedback opportunities and reaching folks that may not, be engaged in spaces already, but are kind of just out in the community and feeling very frustrated. Where, even just in the last week, I've heard of 2 people that got off the ride vehicle because they felt like they were driving around so long and were not safe in doing so. And so like that's a very extreme, and the fact that I've heard 2 of those stories just this week, you know, are concerning, and again is just not consistent with kind of what the data is saying. Also, just want to say, I think, you know, it's great that the MBTA is reevaluating kind of the bag and personal items policy, and again, hope that, you know, we can really kind of think through you know, some common sense and ways to keep both drivers and passengers safe, and kind of figure out, you know, the carts are obviously a big issue, and, you know, figuring out something that will work and is safe for everyone, but also, you know, kind of helps to accommodate, you know, people's needs. So thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'm going to go online to Sandy.
I'm not going to like what I just said.
I just want to say that I also have issues with the shopping cart and emptying it. I can't lift grocery bags, and I use my shopping cart for the store to put the bags in my cart. And then the way it works for me is that I empty them one item at a time when I get home. I don't lift the whole bag. So being asked to lift my grocery bags out of the shopping cart, it doesn't pay attention to the fact that I have disabilities and I can't be lifting grocery bags in and out. And also, there are shopping bags. If you were concerned about safety of shopping bags, you could ask perhaps for some ride drivers if they possibly have the kind of shopping bags that have a top to it. For example, stores sell those kinds of freezer bags that you zip it closed and therefore nothing can fly out of it. But rather than just say that shopping carts have to be emptied, it's just very hard on people like myself who are not that flexible of body or strong a body to be emptying and putting things in and out of the shopping cart on the ride vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. There's a question just for some clarification. How long do you have to be taking the ride for your flex rides to be more than 2 a month? Someone responded that it appears to be chosen at random with how many you start. Can you just provide clarity on that?
Sure. It's not a set length of time. It's based on when we do our annual reviews. If you've traveled at all with the ride, when you apply for the Ride Flex, you will not get 2 trips. You will get whatever the next level of trips is based on your current ridership. But otherwise, we review twice a year, so it would just be when that next period is.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. We have time for probably one more question in person. Tom?
Tom Gilbert again, acting member. My friend Mike has been asking just that question. He has had, I think he's been with Ride Flex for about maybe 3 years. He's been with the ride for a long time, but I think the Ride Flex program, maybe he's been with 3-4 years now, maybe 5. And all this time, he basically has 10 trips, and he keeps asking me, you know, why can't I get more trips? You know, why can't I get more trips? And he's asking me, is there some kind of a committee that decides how many more trips you get as you stay with the Ride Flex? And sometimes I don't know what to say to him, because like he hasn't heard when Michelle was there. I guess she never got back to him to explain it, and then I have to explain to him. Well, I don't know, Mike. I mean, you know, some people only get two trips a month, so there are people in a worse situation than you are, and yet I have other friends that get 30 trips a month, and he just hasn't gotten any definitive answer of how that's exactly decided. I know it's every 6 months when they review and everything, but there's no like definitive answer that I'm able to give him, because he's always asking me, well, Michelle hasn't called me back. Michelle hasn't called me back. When can I talk to Michelle? And it's like, I don't know what to say to him, because at least if you get if you got maybe like 20 a month instead of 10, it'd be a step up anyway, But I'm just wondering.
Yep, can I? Yeah, the answer is that it is not about length of time in the ride or in the ride flex. It is purely about your usage of the ride, and so it is a formula that calculates your recent trip history. And how many trips you generally take on the ride. You would be able to get those many trips, that many trips on the ride flex.
I think what he needs to know is I'm sorry. I think he needs to know of how many times he actually needs to use the van paratransit in order to get more rides a month of ride flex. So I think he needs to know how many times a day, how many times a week, how many times. And I think this is what's kind of aggravating him, because he doesn't know. In order to have that incentive to get more trips a month, that he would need to use the service more often. But how more often does he need to use it in order to get, let's say, maybe almost like a reward of, let's say, going from like 10 a month to like 20 a month, according to how often he needs to use the actual service that's non-ride flex.
So we do not give the exact formula for that reason. I think it would be very easy for anyone to hack the system by traveling 1 month a lot of times and then forever get a certain number of Uber trips discounted. The formula exists so that if you are traveling a certain amount on the ride, you are able to take those trips on the ride flex if you chose. And so it is based on that. I can't give him like if you take 20 trips this next month, and artificially increase your usage of the ride, then your data will look like this, and we'll give you this. The formula exists so that we can manage ridership on the ride flex and not have this be a hugely expensive program that we can't afford to do anymore. So it is meant to offer you the same service you would be getting on the ride, like the same level of service in terms of trip usage, but on another platform as well.
So probably in an ideal sense, you probably have to take a trip, back and forth with the regular ride every day, let's say.
It's not necessarily that, but I can't give him the formula. I would say the more you use it, the more you get.
All right, thanks, Tom. I am going to have the slides pulled back up so we can close out the meeting. No. Okay, well.
Aren't you guys going till 5?
No, it started at 2.
Oh.
It was 2 to 4 today. So we just have some contact information up on the screen. If you want to contact me with any concerns or feedback or questions, you can give me a call at 978-893-8100. You can also email RTAG, RTAG, Boston at bostoncil.org. And you can sign up for the RTAG newsletter, which was just posted in the chat, the link to sign up for that. Or you can find me in the room if you're here. And you can visit mbta.com/RTAG to learn more. And upcoming meetings and reminders, like Rob shared earlier, we have the semi-annual Judge King settlement update meeting on December 10th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and that will be hybrid, taking place from this room. And then our next general RTAG meeting will be January 21st of next year from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., and that will be virtual. And I think that's the end of our slides. Thank you all so much for coming. Appreciate it.